The Rodriguez family of Galicia, Spain, immigrated to the island of Hispaniola after independence was won in the Dominican Republic and settled in the north of the island. At the same time, the Sephardic Jewish De Leon family moved from the Dutch island of Curaçao to Santo Domingo. Florentino Rodriguez de Leon, the product of a Galician Jewish marriage, became one of the wealthiest citizens on the island and was personally appointed as a member of the fascist government of the ruthless dictator Rafael Trujillo. His son Amado, who worked as an accountant in the city, married Consuelo Ventura, a woman of Sicilian and Southern Italian descent. Their child, born on April 18, 1952, was named Norma Amada Rodriguez.
Well, I was only 9 years old when Trujillo was assassinated. I really was not afraid per se because I was too young, but the rumors I hear all the time was, people have to be careful what they say. If they spoke, if they say anything about the government, they had a whisper, and people were very afraid, and there was no freedom. You can't talk loud about anything. When I was 7 years old, about that time, I was living in a small town called Samaná, and that's where Trujillo was assassinated. And I do recall that my cousin was taken prisoner together with other friends, because at that time students that were protesting or saying anything about the government, they took them prisoner. Well, I lived with my mom and my dad until they got divorced. I was very, very young, so I don't remember much of that. And I think I was probably 2 years old. And then I lived with both my father and my grandmother for a while, my paternal grandmother. That was when I was very, very young, between 3, 4, 5, around that time.
Now, what was your church life, your religious life? Any traditions with your families?
We were Catholic and went to church every Sunday. We went to church with my grandmother. We just had the traditional holidays, Christmas and Easter, just the routine, nothing special that we did different than anyone else.
When was the first time you really heard about America?
I heard about New York, which was the main city where people talked about. I heard about New York when I was about probably 7 years old, because at that town where I lived, there was a friend of mine who went to school with me, and her father was in New York. So I saw all the dolls and all the toys that she used to get from New York. The first time I thought about the possibility of me being in the United States was when my father told me he was coming to the United States and whether I would come if he wanted me to, and I said yes, of course. I was probably 12 or 13 years old.
What did you think about America, though? What do you think was a better place?
Oh, yes, of course, yes. I thought it was a better place. It was like a dream place to come to. There was a lot of prejudice against people darker skin or Haitians.
Under Trujillo?
Under Trujillo, yes.
Now, what were your feelings about that? Were you too young to really, or how did your father react to this?
I don't believe my father was not prejudiced. I think he believed in, people were people, and that he values people's education and people behavior, and more than the color of their skin or anything like that. I didn't think of anything of it because I was too young. I did see Trujillo in person at one time that he went to visit the town of Samaná, and I remember that big gathering up on a hill where it was like a military place, and I think my father was there at that time, and he picked me up and held me up to see him.
What was your reaction to him?
Oh wow, you seen the El Jefe. He used to call himself el benefactor y padre de la patria nueva. He used to call himself the benefactor and father of the new land. A lot of people, most people, especially in the countryside, they used to have a picture of Trujillo. It was mandatory to have a picture of Trujillo in their homes. In my house, in none of my family house, I never remember seeing a picture of Trujillo. My father was not pro-Trujillo, but of course you had to keep silent. During the Civil War, I was at boarding school at that time, and it was something that I just heard after it started, because I was in a boarding school. My boarding school was right in the center of the city where the war was happening, which is called Ciudad Nueva, which is New City, and it's part of close to the colonial city of Santo Domingo. That's where all the rebels and against the government were fighting. We were very afraid at the boarding school, and every night we used to hear the shooting. Somebody came from Spain to take the nuns with them, but there were a few of us. That there were 3 girls. All the parents came to pick up their kids, and I was one of the 3 people left at the boarding school, because my father was in New York and my mother was out of the city, so my aunt and uncle in the city couldn't come to pick me up because it was dangerous for them. So I almost ended up going to Spain with the nuns, but then they decided to go to another town outside the Santo Domingo with the 3 girls that were left. And we did. We drove one day when things were a little calm during the day, and I saw all the Americans and all the protection, all the military. Dominican Republic started getting more Americanized, more than we were just more European before, more European influence. Then we started getting more, after 1965, more of a American way of life, and more trying to be like Americans. People were able to travel because under Trujillo, it was very hard to leave the country. There was a law that everybody who had a relative, an immediate relative, whether a son, a daughter, a father, a mother, a husband, could petition for their family, for the relatives. So my father immediately, that law, I think that became law in 1965, as a matter of fact. My father immediately filed a petition for me to come join him.
Now, where did you live in New York with your father? What part?
In Upper Manhattan.
What neighborhood?
It's called Washington Heights.
And what was your home life like? You know, what were your neighbors like? Was there a strong community of Hispanics?
It was starting to be a strong community of Hispanic. It's not what it's nowadays. I was happy. I remember being happy, being with a lot of emotions, leaving behind my country land and what I have known for 14 years and coming to the United States, to a new land.